Welcome to the Defiance City Schools Board of Education meeting. Can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Moats?
Here.
Mrs. Oberlin?
Here.
Mr. Rodenberger?
Here.
Mr. Wong?
Here.
And we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public participation is still on hold due to COVID. Again, we encourage citizens, parents, to contact Mr. Morton with any concerns, questions, and he will get those forwarded to us. I'm going to turn it over to you, Mrs. Fisher.
Under the discussion items, the first one is the fiscal year end report. We've completed fiscal year end for fiscal year 20. The report looks like this. So there is a couple good things, I guess more one. But if you look at the very first page, you'll see the changes from the May forecast to the end of the fiscal year. You can see that our revenues came in a little bit lower than what was expected, but our expenses also came in lower than what was expected. Because of that, we were able to not deficit spend, and we have a $526,000 carryover. If you look at the next page, it kind of walks you through the changes in revenue. You can see there was other revenue that we received that made a difference with the revenue. We received a one-time BWC payment for $69,000, a catastrophic cost payment of $13,000, and our investments, because of a maturity coming due, was higher in June than normal, which was $39,000. And then we had a tuition payment of $18,000. If you look at the expenses on the next page, you can see the changes there as well. We did have somewhat of a reduction in utilities, bus fuel repair, professional development, staff travel, and extracurricular travel, and supplies contributed to COVID-19. And the overall reduction coming in there is $380,000. So as a result, you can see there, we went from a negative $11,000 balance to a positive 526. It was a net change of about 1.8%. That's the good news. The bad news is that since May, we have found out that we are getting a significantly higher increase to our insurance than what we thought we were going to get. The forecast had been forecast with 8-10% through the future 5 years. We're looking at close to an 18% this year. I think actually Mr. Morton was given 23.
23 was the initial.
So I forecasted 18, hoping that that number comes down from what he's been told. So
That would take it into effect January 1.
January 1 of this year, yeah. So it would affect this fiscal year, and then going forward, I've also adjusted those numbers as well, not up as high as 18, but higher than 8%. So they're like it's between 10 and 12%. In doing that, it increases our bottom line in 5 years from a negative 2.2 million to a negative 4.6. So we're definitely going to look at some options when it comes to healthcare. Those big increases that we're going to see, and see what we can do there. So those, maybe coming down the pipe later. And Mr. Morton is on the board of the healthcare consortium, so maybe we'll see a lower increase than what they forecast, but that's what the preliminary number they gave us. So that's the fiscal year end report. Any questions? The next one is just the bus purchase resolution. This is something that we do every year. It's basically joining Meta, which is a consortium that we do for competitive bidding. We have to let them know if we have an intent to buy a bus. So we always say that we have an intent to buy 2. It doesn't commit you to buy the bus. It just simply means that when and if you do want to buy a bus, we can use their process for the bidding instead of having to incur that cost ourselves. We can do it later. I just want to go over everything. The next one is, I just wanted to let you guys know, like, we talked about this before, that state software that we currently have is going away. We're going to a state software redesign. And the main thing I want you to know about that was that the old state software was free. This new state software, we're told, is going to have a minimal cost to it. So that's one thing that we haven't got numbers on that yet, but that's something that hasn't been forecasted in the forecasting. We don't know what that, if it will be anything. But the other thing is, because of that upgrade, we're going to have to upgrade some of our other software that interfaces with the state software. The first one of that being Edge, which is our check citing software, and our PO citing software. And that first one is about $1,000, but it's a one-time upfront cost. And Edge is one of the cheaper ones in the area that does that we have to have for that purpose. So I just want to keep you up to date that is happening. We had a training with the secretaries yesterday that went really well, but it's just like for them entering requisitions. But it's supposed to be a web-based module. It's supposed to be better and more reliant. So hopefully, we'll be that. But our transition will be September 18th. Will be the last day on our old system. So payroll, accounts payable, receivable, everything will be switching over to that system. Next thing is the Purdue Opioid Bankruptcy. Honestly, the first time I've ever run into something like this, we were contacted by our attorney. Every school district in the area was, probably the state. But basically, if you read through what's happening there, you can see that there was a bankruptcy filed and there's a lawsuit pending, and they're basically saying anyone who was affected by that bankruptcy, and when they mean affected, they mean like, was there an increase in opioid use in your area? And there's a calculation out there that says this is the increase that we could have realized. So to be a part of that lawsuit, we have to actually have a resolution to join it. It's not going to cost us anything because they're taking their portion out of the proceeds, which you can see is explained in that letter from Bronston McCord, our attorney. But it's one of those things where it's like it could be money that we get, it could be money that we don't get, but if we don't join, we don't get anything. So, we want to kind of take advantage of that. It's, money that we weren't counting on, which is always a good thing, so.
Did the cost of the increase in opioid use, did it affect our school district?
In Defiance County, there was a large increase, and there is a direct effect to the children. And if we had children in school through some counseling, I asked the question, how do we determine? And they said it will be a formula based upon where you live, how many students you have. It could be a few dollars to tens of thousands of dollars, and we really don't have the, around $4 million total dollars for this area.
Yeah, which they said we would see between, like this number, 0
Yeah,
and 10%.
yeah, so it's,
So it could be about $400,000 for us.
So.
But yeah, I think that's in there. There it is, it's $4,239,749 is what they say the impact to this district or to the.
they probably say
district is.
regionally,
Yeah.
the region.
And then we would get a percentage of that. And then there's a then and now purchase order for a repair that was done before the end of the year, but not paid till after the end of the year. We weren't aware of it, so we closed out the blanket purchase order before the bill was paid. So, and then, I'm sorry, I lost my screen.
This fiscal year insurance.
Thank you. There's a couple fiscal year-end transfers, just general operating procedure. But since they are different from funds every year, we don't put them under the consent agenda. There was a transfer from the general fund out to textbooks and set-asides, and that's a general fund transfer. It's from general fund to a special cost center general fund. It's not a transfer out for fees. And then the other one was a transfer from money that was in a grant for fiscal year 19 to the grant for fiscal year 20. We were waiting on guidance from the state on that because we get workers' comp rebates, And we have to post those back in the accounts we took them out of, and when we take them out of grants, and then we get a refund a year later, we have to post them back to the grant. But when we do the final expenditure report for the grant, they don't have a place for us to include that BWC, the money that we receive comes directly from the state. So that was money left over in the grant from last year that we really couldn't do anything with because it was that BWC rebate. Then we finally got guidance that we can just transfer it over into 2020, and hopefully now 2021. So that's all the discussion items. Any questions on any of those?
All right, Mr. Moon, we're up.
I still have action items.
Oh, you do have one extra in
I
here?
have a few.
You want those done now?
Yeah, if you could. Thank you. The first one's the year-end fiscal report, and then you also have June and July's fiscal year reports. I'm in a process of, we're switching software for the we're keeping the same company, but they're switching their platform to the 5-year forecast software, which is why you don't have the other report that normally goes with these. That's why I just created this report in PowerPoint, so you have that. But these are the back-end reports that come out of our state software system. If you have any questions regarding those for month June and for July.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Moats?
Yes.
Mrs. Oberlin?
Yeah.
Mr. Rudenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Next one is to participate in the Meta bus purchase resolution.
I'll move on.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Oberlin?
Yes.
Mr. Rudenberger?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Moats?
Yes.
The next one is to approve the Purdue opioid resolution as presented.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion, questions?
I'm saying this is in order. You have to file by Tuesday, July 28th, at 4 p.m. They both want to file on our behalf for that.
Yes.
We just had to send an email expressing our interest to participate, and then the board resolution can take place after the fact.
Because what happens is we filed with Ennis.
Ennis Britain.
And then they contact the attorney that actually is doing the court case. And then they come back to us with the resolution.
So in the event that there is a settlement and money is awarded to the school district, what would that money be used for?
I don't know if there'll be any restrictions on the money. My assumption would be it would go into the general fund and be used for operating.
I have the opinion they'll require it to be in some sort of drug prevention or drug abuse or substance abuse type program. That would be what I would think they would ask you to include it in. But I don't know that. There's typically stipulations when those things come out, especially to us.
You know, these blanket lawsuits, sue everybody for everything. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I do feel if it's based on drug usage, that we should apply that money if we do receive towards drug education.
Absolutely. I think it would be important to maybe reach out to our DARE officer and help support that program a little bit. We have other programs that Drummond Williamson does through the SRO. We have our tackle program where they have that. We have our, I just lost my train of thought, our students that do it.
Also during this time of COVID, there are mental health issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kids that, this is a difficult time for them also.
Yeah, yeah.
Just that money that we do receive, so.
yeah. I think, we have our Teen Pep program that they do a lot of role-playing student, and again, there's financial expenses that go along with that. We can support all of that.
Unfortunately, they're estimating between 3 and 5 years for settlement.
Well,
But when we do get it, we will.
we have a backlash.
I'm sure they'll still
Seniors
be.
of COVID-19.
Yeah.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rodenberger,
Yes.
Mr. Wall,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Moats.
Yes.
Mrs. Oberlin.
Yeah.
The last thing I have is a then and now purchase order for tractor repairs done in June of 2020, and paid in July of 2020.
I'll move.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mrs. Serwin?
Yes.
Mr. Rodenberg?
Yes.
That is all, thank you.
Yes, sorry, sure, I was off on my agenda here.
No, I lost mine too, so.
Okay. Well, Mr. Morton, now you're up.
Fantastic. You know, there are, of course, lots to discuss coming back to school and with the pandemic still looming in and around the country and in Ohio and Northwest Ohio. And one of the things that I just want to reiterate, and specifically if Tim would capture this and place it in the paper and any of our YouTube channel subscribers, we appreciate our families' patience, understanding, cooperation, input, and we know that you're nervous, and so are we, but we'll get through it. And we just want to reiterate the fact that patience is a virtue, and your flexibility is greatly appreciated, very much so. With that being said, we as you're aware, we developed our back to school, our responsible reopening plan, and we put a virtual option out there for our families. As of 4 p.m. today, when I walked out of my office door to come over here, we have 497 children enrolled in our virtual program. There are more inquiring about it, and one of the things that families maybe or were not aware of and didn't see it, that there was a deadline for the application period of August the 10th at 12 noon, and some people missed that. And we made that a hard deadline, and there were no exceptions, because we do have to have time to plan and execute this virtual plan, as well as how that impacts our in-classroom learning and setup. And I understand the frustration that some families do have with that. Unfortunately, if we move forward and continue to accept, I don't know that we would ever be able to get to a landing point. So right now, those families, we're taking their name, their children's name, and any information that we need, and we're just keeping a list. And if we feel that it is in their best interest to do that, and we can accommodate them, maybe in the future we will be able to. But right now, that was the deadline. Our numbers breakdown, and I should have blown this up a little bit because my eyes don't work as well as they once did, is we have 37 kindergartners, we have 46 first graders, we have 42 second graders, 43 third graders, 48 fourth graders, 39 fifth graders, 39 sixth graders, 41 seventh graders, 46 eighth graders, 27 ninth graders, 38 10th graders, 33 11th graders, and 18 12th graders, for a total of 497. I believe that I shared with you when we put this out there, I was estimating in the 10% range when we looked at our survey. That's the 20% range. If you look at our total student body population in Fort County and everybody that goes, it's actually a little less than that, but I'm saying the children that have come to Defiance Elementary or Defiance Middle School or High School, that's right at the 20% range. And I think it's in our best interest. It does provide our families an option, and it also does help us in our social distancing capacities within the building. So I'm happy that we had families that chose this option, and regardless for the reason they chose it. It's a good program, and I'm going to show you a little bit about it. I'm not going to take a lot of time. We have created an entire web page on our homepage that is everything you want to know about virtual learning, instructional videos, etc. Now, since our filter blocks our homepage, I cheated the system a little bit and just went out to the parent company. We are a member of NovaNet, the Northwest Ohio Virtual Academy, and we had used it very sparingly in the last 10 years. We had used another platform, but this is just the basic where you're going to go find some stuff out. What we have done is we've taken important information out of this and put it on our website. And if you just go to defiancecityschools.org, on our homepage, you will see Defiance Virtual Academy, right on the homepage, a whole big banner. You click on it, you get everything you want to know. What I'm going to show you is a short video, I won't play it all, just to give you an idea of what the platform looks like. In addition to any family, we've sent this link out, we've posted this link, and today they received an email at 4 o'clock outlining their next steps. So I'll just show you a simple
Hello and welcome, and thank
video.
you for learning about schools PLP. This video is specific on the...
I'll pause it a couple times and talk through it.
it.
And I say I'll pause it, I think I can pause. But when you log into this, ours says Defiance Personal Learning Platform. So it's personalized, it's specific to us.
Same for grades 6 through 12.
So this is what everyone looks like, but the curriculum is different based upon your grade level.
To the school name or district name.schoolplp.com that they will provide you, and you log in with your...
And then I'll just fast forward ahead a little bit and show you what this would look like.
for the teacher.
So this would be a typical high school student and what it would look like in the when they logged in. And
trying to pause, Bob?
what's that?
You trying to pause?
No, what I'm doing is I'm actually turning it down so I can walk you through it. I've been through this so many times I probably can do it in my sleep. What I want to show you is when a student would log in, they would see all of their courses, their overall progress, what they need to do every day, and it's a very prescriptive, step-by-step, self-paced program. Obviously, the level, okay, is dependent on what you're going to be asked to do. A kindergartner is not going to be asked to do what a high school senior is, and obviously the curriculum is designed specifically for them. It gives them a daily activity, a report card, and one of the important things is this message center, and he's just clicking on that. If there is a message that is posted in this, a student cannot do anything until they click the message, read the message, and acknowledge that they've seen the message and or reply to it. And that lets people know that, so it basically freezes it. So if a student hasn't been on or is really struggling or rushing through something, you send a message that says, hey, slow down, or I haven't seen you logged on in a while, and it forces them to acknowledge that message, then we know that they've received it. This goes through just a litany of programs, curriculum that are in here. He's just talking about what a supply or materials that you may need in this science class. Interestingly enough, what he's telling you is you don't need to purchase any of this. Everything is interactive on there, but if you personally, like a kinesthetic learner, and you really want something hands-on, we give you an at-home list that you can buy. Now, it's, I'd say 90% of it is just home stuff. Tape, pens, rulers, etc. that you would have in your home. Okay? The other, I'll move it ahead just a smidge. He's going to go through a quick lesson here, and he's just going to see, if you'll see it, it'll say 71, 72, 73, 74. There are 180 instructional days in a year, so every one of these is equivalent of an instructional day in this course, and that's how the courses are laid out, and that's how we're able to do this, and also count in the student in attendance when we do our EMIS reporting. He's going to show you, there's 3 platforms on it, and the platforms are pretty simple. They have a read it, they have a watch it, they have a show. So the child can read it, and he's going to show you in a little click here that you can actually have the text read to you, so you can have headphones on if you wanted to do it, if you don't want your mom to hear it, or you need private and you want to listen to it on your headphones. And that's what he's showing you, is that it'll read everything about it. It'll translate it to like 40 different languages if you want. You can have it define words if you don't know what words are. It'll pronounce words for you if you highlight it. It's highly interactive, highly interactive. There it's translating it to Spanish. He's going to click through and say, hey, look, if Spanish isn't your thing, and you can see, I mean, you name it, every language that is there, and it will translate that to you and put it in the text. Important, because we have children that are from Central America that do speak Spanish, but a dialect from Honduras or Ecuador or Mexico, and this is important for them if they need that as well. We do have Japanese and Chinese students that are not native speakers for us as well, so this is important. But it just goes through, again, this is the read it, this is kind of the teach yourself, watch a video, etc. Then there's the next section is the watch it section. Again, this is in your house, what kind of circuits are you? And then there'll be a series of videos that you can watch. And then there's a demonstration part where you actually have to, again, they're Discovery Ed videos, highly interactive, really good. We own a lot of those now. It's just going to be, and then you can click on a link in there, and then it takes you to hundreds of different videos for if you want to watch. But just to give you an idea, look, there's 9 different videos just on series and parallel circuits on this. Okay? I'm going to speed them ahead a little bit. And this is where you have to actually show what you know. And there's an answer key so you can check your answer. There's a rubric that you have to follow. And it tells you everything you need, what your objective for the lesson is, 100% aligned to Ohio academic content standards. And I'm going to show you the little lab that they have to do in here. So this is where you have to apply your knowledge, just like a classroom teacher would do an introduction, introduce you to it. You would practice it, and then you actually have to apply your knowledge to show that you know it. And it creates a little laboratory within it. It's a circuit simulation. All the materials that you know, what kind of resistivity do you want, what kind of battery life do you need, etc. And you actually build the circle. And then the computer the circuit, and the computer tells you that you're capable or this is not correct. But this is just one interactive lesson for a child. And what I just showed you would be a typical 50-minute class period for a high school student, in this case, a freshman in a physical science course, okay? I want you to think from kindergarten to anything that we would offer in high school. We have every single course offered, including honors courses, okay? We have credit recovered courses, etc. I am super excited about this online curriculum and what it has to offer for us, and again, to offer our families that are interested in doing this. So, does anybody have any questions on that?
So as far as meeting graduation requirements, things of that nature, this is going
This means, yes.
to meet
Yep.
those requirements.
Yes, sir. One of the things, we're talking about state tests as well. So there are going to be children that are going to be required to take state tests. And we're planning on it as if the state's going to require us to take them this year. And then everything's aligned to the standards. Again, the PACE is the critical component where they are when it's time to take that. But we feel if they are doing what they're supposed to do, they will be on track as well.
And as far as the individuals, say for example, they filled out their schedule last year, these courses will match the schedule?
We will do everything in our power to match it exactly as it is. We are going to start with high school students. High school students are way different than elementary and middle school students because they have to have a number of electives to graduate from high school. Some of them choose arts, some choose languages, some choose fine arts, etc. So we're going to start all of them in their 4 cores. We want to get them in and get them started, and then go through and build their elective course selections as we go. We've got most of it ready. I think we'll get it all ready. But if there's somebody that's in a French 4, we will tell them, hey, we're going to get you started on your 4 cores, and we're going to add your French 4 in a week or 10 days. So that way, when it's populated, they are kind of used to the interface before they actually get started in that.
So how do electives like gym and things like that are required that they have to take?
We have the ability to offer those to high school students. If there's a requirement, we have the ability to offer.
What's the grade distribution like compared to in-school classes?
And I'm not sure what I mean.
Grade district, like ABC, like?
So we set the parameters. The grading scale will be exactly what our grading scale is in the elementary school and the middle school, high school. So it'll be exactly as it's set. We have a plus-minus scale, grades 6 through 12, and that will be calculated exactly the same way.
I'm kind of thinking from a practical standpoint, would it be easier for a student to get an A through the Learning Academy versus here, or should it be scaled about the same?
I think personally, it will be more difficult in a online course than it would be because you don't have the human interaction, and it's the same content that you're going to be getting in the classroom. So
what kind of support do they have?
So that's later in your agenda. I'm going to ask you to employ 2 virtual learning academy academic coaches that serve as, for lack of a better word, support liaison between the family and the school So if they have technical issues, so if they're struggling with a specific subject, we have a person that we employ then that has the ability to meet with a math teacher, meet with a science teacher, whatever, and be that bridge between the family and the school, because they're still our kids, and we still got to keep them where they are. We're pretty fortunate, if, to be quite honest with you, when you're looking at, I was estimating 250 and we're at 500, and that'll be a daunting task for our two academic coaches, certainly will. And then we have special education students that are also included in that 500. And so I'm kind of giving you a little forewarning. Don't be surprised if I come at you and say, let's get a third liaison to temper this and make it a little, because the number one factor is we want to serve the kids and serve them well and correctly, because if they choose to come back, we have to have them ready to be back in person learning. So that's important.
No, I'm sorry.
Will they take the state test online at home?
No, they'll have to come in and take them here.
They're doing this on a semester by semester basis.
Correct.
So if they choose at the end of the first semester to come back to school, they're going to be pretty well aligned with what will be going on.
If they have followed what is in the course, let's say, for example, let's make it simple terms, let's say a semester is 90 days, and they have completed their 90 lessons, they may get back, and some of the things that they are in, they may have already done a little bit, but typically they will be at the same spot and have covered the content that would be covered over the course of a year. Some of them may be ahead.
But they themselves will not have interaction with the teacher of that subject.
That is correct. The interaction is through Lincoln Learning, which is the interface that we use in our virtual liaison. It is not a direct interaction. If I'm the Spanish student in Spanish 3, I'm not going to be talking to a Defiance High School Spanish teacher. I'm going to be doing it through the computer, and the computer it's a self-paced, it assesses you, the whole bit. There are components that have to be submitted to be graded by a human being, and that's why we're employing those two people later in the agenda.
Now, thinking, if the possibility were to occur that we would end up going completely online, will all students now utilize this, or will teachers be required to create programs or lessons that students will have to take, and who will have to take the teacher lessons and who will have to take the...
Very good question, and like I said, if our website wasn't blocked, I would share this great frequently asked question. That is a great question, and for us to be consistent, if you sign up for the virtual option, let's think we're going to do some definitions here. Virtual learning option is what I just showed you. That means you've chosen to stay at home for whatever reason and you want to receive your education virtually while we are coming back to school. If we are forced to go to a remote learning option, like we did last spring, our teachers will be responsible for that. And they will be responsible for the students that are in their classroom. And at that time, our teachers then will have that, and they will provide the instruction and the teaching and learning for our children that were in the school when we were forced to close. So you will stay in that. If we were at a semester break and you choose to come back to us, and then we go to remote learning, then you would be in the remote learning course. But if you choose this option now, in the email that went out to the families today, it had you had to watch an instructional video that outlined everything about it. You had to go through and say that you watched the video. You had to say that I understand and that I'm committing to this for one semester. And in there it said if you change your mind, you click the button that says we changed our mind, we don't think we can do this, we want to come back to school. And so families have until Monday at noon to complete that. But it just makes it easier, Gary. We store every grade by the semester. And that's how we don't store grades. Permanent records for children through their entire career are stored by the semester. And so that's why the semester is the logical choice of committing in and out. So.
And this is the most difficult question for me to ask. Looking at the numbers in each of the grade levels, especially in elementary, those are classroom size numbers.
Correct.
Are we overstaffed now?
No, what it does is it helps us meet the social distancing requirements that we need to. Any other year, I'd say yes, we are. But in this case, It helps us keep our numbers down and spread our children out and achieve maximum attainable social distancing in our classrooms.
So no teacher has to be concerned with the fact?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. Again, I think that's a good question, and I think that under the circumstances that we are in, this is beneficial for all parties. If you want to send your kid to school, our families that chose the remote learning option are helping you as well, and vice versa.
And we say likewise for the cafeteria workers?
Yeah, we still have to make breakfast, we still have to serve lunch, and we have to do it a little differently, and it's going to require a little more time, and the staffing it's important. Our families that choose the remote option, we're gonna offer them the lunch program like we did all spring. We're gonna have a pickup location for them, and they sign up and pick up. You know, again, there are families I think we have to support. I haven't gotten the logistics of that one figured out yet, but we'll get there.
So Bob, with the virtual, you have a student that's on an IEP. Okay, so this gets tweaked to their IEP
Correct.
individually.
Correct.
As we need it.
Correct. We have the ability to modify the lesson, modify the number of choices, the amount of time they can retry something. I mean, I don't want to say the possibilities are endless, but I mean, they're pretty,
You can modify it as needed.
as necessary, so.
Their evaluation meetings will take place normally though?
For school teachers?
For those students that are on an IEP, if they're reevaluating their IEP,
Yes.
the adjustments that will take place with the normal teacher.
Correct. So I wouldn't say, so let's say that I'm a special educator and I'm writing Gary Rodenberger's IEP. That I may not be necessarily the person that would do it if you were in the school. But we will assign, and we're actually using terms that are typical. We will have a case manager that manages your case, and you will be responsible, and that will be a special educator, within our district. Fortunately, both of the young ladies I'm recommending to you both have K-12 intervention license, and that's important as we move through this. And that was one of the, kind of by luck, that they both had it. And so yes, there will be traditional IEP meetings, re-evals. Some of it may be done virtually. But, you know, it's just all in the comfort level and what we've got to get through, so.
But our staff will be.
Yeah,
responsible
absolutely,
for it.
absolutely. Mrs. Steyer is over there shaking her head, nodding, saying, yep, you're right, so. Any questions on the virtual learning academy that Defiance City Schools is eager to launch here in the next few days? I've gotten some great questions from kids that have gone through it. Hey, if you guys delay, can my virtual school be delayed? And, you know, just, you know, it's interesting, you know, kids think, they're pretty logical thinkers, and they're thinking, oh, man, if I can get a delay too.
Is it like, they have to check in at a certain time?
So the way it works, Michael, we haven't established that, but it's really beneficial to the person. If you're I'll say if you're a night owl, and you really function well at 10 p.m. and you want to work 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. and get your schoolwork done, we're okay with that. But if your mom's an early riser and she wants you out of bed and wants you at the table working on it, then you better get up and work at the table. So, and we are billed in this program. They're called concurrent licenses, and we're billed on usage. It's almost like your electric bill. You know, you're billed on the usage that you use per day. You're going to have high peak times. You know, probably 10, 11, 12 o'clock in the morning is going to be a high peak time, and we may get to a point where we ask certain grade levels to work in particular time, but we have to be understanding some of these families are still working. Some of them are going to have grandparents at their home or a babysitter at their home, and I'm sure there's a few families that are going to get together and have their children do this together, and that's fine as well too. So.
Is this something, Mr. Morton, that once all this virus issue is somewhat taken care of, student in third grade took virtual learning this year and decides, you know what, I want to do it next year. Or I want to do it in fifth grade, I want to do it in sixth grade.
We've had we had administrative council last, we've been meeting all summer, but we had our first welcome back one last Friday. And I believe I told the principals and the other building or the district leaders that this is probably something that is here to stay. In what capacity, in what control, we have full control over it. But one of the benefits is we've actually had about 15 families that were at different virtual schools in other schools that when we put this out there went, huh, that's cool, we do that already, why wouldn't we do it for our home district? So we will come back, and I can see that being beneficial to us long-term.
And for those students that are involved in this, especially those at the high school level as far as extracurricular activities.
We're letting them do anything that they just, we had that discussion as well. Again, we had the choice to permit or not. And I used the homeschool analogy as my baseline. A child can be homeschooled and participate in those extracurriculars. These are our kids doing the programs that we are designing them. It's permissible for them to participate for whatever reason. I know one specific example. There's a young lady who's got a little sister who is high incidence, high medical needs, and her mom wanted her to stay home and help and do this as well. And she says, but my daughter loves band. Is there any way she can still do the band? So we just worked through all of that, and yeah, we're going to let you do that. You're our kid.
Yeah, I agree that in maybe each individual circumstance, there should be something that should be set aside for those individuals. But for an individual that's choosing not to attend school for fear of contracting the virus,
Understand.
and then allowing their child to attend an extracurricular activity or participate in extracurriculars, that seems to
It's
negate the whole reason
hypocritical.
behind.
I totally agree. And
And they not only put themselves at risk, but now they put our students at risk because they're coming from outside. We don't know, we have no controls as far as whether they're being monitored every day, temperature checks, hand sanitize.
and that's why we're doing that every day at every extracurricular activity that we have. And I know one of the things when we put this out
It's kind
there.
of like having your cake and eat your cake, and you get.
Oh, there's no question. There's no
You
question.
know, that's, is,
There's no question that's the case.
Some parents, though, are choosing to keep their children at home simply because they don't want them wearing a mask all day.
That is,
It just boils down to that one factor alone.
there are those
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
not that they're necessarily afraid of sending them back for COVID, but they just don't want to wear a mask.
The way I had to put my personal feelings in aside and just say, look, there's 2,500 kids in this school district, and for what, I don't care what reason you have, if you choose this as your option, you're going to commit to it for a semester, and then we'll reevaluate it. I did also put in there, we have the right to make you stop if you are not fulfilling your obligation, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, we can revoke you and bring you back at any point in time. If it's something that you think you're going to lay around all day and do 1 or 2 things a week, that isn't going to work out for you because it's just not how it's going to be. I have a feeling after they go through all of the detail in the email today, there'll probably be a few families that call tomorrow and say, take us out. Because I want to be clear, and maybe Mr. McDonough can help with the clarity, this is not the remote learning that we had to rush into last spring. And that we had to, plan in a period of 3 or 4 days and execute it and get everybody a device. This is a true virtual curriculum that is extremely detailed.
Are we gonna give them one of our devices?
I gave them the option to choose if they wanted our device or not. Some families don't need it, some do. If they do choose, we're going to require them to pay the $25 insurance fee so that we have some ability to repair any damages.
And so if you say that there's, let's say, we watch all this and Monday, we have 35 kids that say that they don't want to do this.
We're going to say, come right on back to school. We've already got you on the class list.
And you have the other list of people that want it.
I will start calling them to see if that's something, yeah, and I will actually call them in the order at which they called us.
Should we give them this information now so they can watch
They have
it?
the ability to see it on our website.
Well, they're
Currently.
sent this to these.
What I'll do is after they watch it on the website, I'll ask them to commit to the same procedures as well. But I want to see how many people change their mind. So we've actually had probably 5 or so in the last couple of days change their mind. Well, I'll say today, because it was 501, 502 yesterday. It was 497 today when I left.
What accommodations are being made for those students that may not have access to the internet now during this time?
That's a great question. We purchased 50. Thank you, jetpacks that run on cellular data, and those can be loaned out like a library book. We signed a couple of them out last spring, but we have the ability to sign those out. Also applied for a grant to reimburse us the cost and the monthly expense that we incur for that as well. We applied for that yesterday, 2 days ago. I lose track of it, but on Monday, $22,500 to reimburse us the cost of the jetpacks in addition to what it costs us to operate them monthly for a year.
So the approximately 497, I'm assuming that most of them have access.
I think, Gary, on that list, there was about 20 that said that they did not have reliable internet.
Is that through Verizon, those jetpacks?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Is there any way you can get Verizon/Meadowlink to just donate to those 20 families?
Well, there's a I think it was a $50 billion broadband connectivity that went out. And what they're doing is they're setting up where they will do installs for free, reduce bills for a period of time, and they're actually supplementing their fees with the grants that they're getting as well. The Verizon company actually gave us the ability during the summer when we weren't in school to kind of, for lack of a better term, make them dormant so that we weren't being charged the full amount per month for them, and I think it was just a $5 fee per device per month while they weren't being loaned out and used. So they work with you a little bit.
Did Spectrum do something for the district too?
Spectrum offered free installation and reduced bill for anybody that didn't have it. One of the things that, there's a difference between having the ability to get internet or service and not. The outlier communities or people that live out in the country, it's a little harder for them to get internet. Like in our city, we have, everybody has access to it. Affordability, I think, sometimes is the issue. And if they have a faulty router of their own or whatever the case might be. So, but we'll work with families and make sure they have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a 10-page frequently asked questions. That's what it got to over the course of about 3 weeks. And, you know, if you have to answer them, somebody else is thinking the same thing. So it was good for us to put that on there. Okay. I just informed you that the governor came out on 5/2. That the governor did come out with a mask mandate. Basically, older than 2 years old and in a school, you're going to wear a mask. And in a nutshell, there are a few exceptions, and very few exceptions. Interestingly enough, Mrs. Held has held kindergarten screening the last few days, and we've had them going through the screening and had great compliance. Moms and dads bringing their children in, masks on, going through the screening process. Our kindergarten teachers wearing their face shields so they don't look like the mask bandit from some bad cartoon or something. But there are a few exceptions to the governor's order, and there are 6. And if you're under 2, if you have, if they have to remove it, they can't remove it themselves without assistance. Somebody that has significant behavior or psychological issues or is undergoing treatment for that. Living with severe autism is another exception. And then if you have a facial deformity that just physically makes it. And those are the exceptions that the governor and the High Department of Health outlined for us. So I just thought you should have that at your disposal. I also share with you some building-specific plans and our K-5 building and our 612 building and the protocols and procedures that are outlined there. Again, this information is on our website and is actually being mailed home to every family. Our postage meter will be going a little haywire for the next few days, but we're going to get that out to every family in the district that is electing to return to school. School bus purchase program, I think it came to you in the April school board meeting and said we applied for a grant through the school bus purchase program. We submitted the grant application on March the 20th, 2020, which I believe was a Friday. Okay, and submitted all the VIN numbers for the buses we were disposed of, etc. We then sent our request to Cardinal Busing for the lease purchase of 2 buses. and waited on them. And if you recall what started happening then, everybody went to remote and was working from home or not working. These are Bluebird buses, and the Bluebird factory was shut down, and I'll get to the crux of the matter. Cheryl and I went in, actually, it was about 2 weeks ago, went in to allocate the money into the 5-year forecast, and it said your award is 0, when originally it said $60,793. Inquired, and they said, you didn't sign the document by the June 1st deadline. She pulls up and says it was submitted on March 20th. Neither here nor there, there's a little hidden feature in the Comprehensive Continuous Improvement Grant that they required it to be signed by June 1st by me. I did not meet that deadline. So I pulled through all of the documents and it said I had to have it submitted to you, my assurances, by June 1st. And the paper that I signed and submitted to you were the assurances. I met the deadline, I included everything. Tell me why that isn't what you said. They said, well, you didn't make any mistakes. That was their response. Cheryl investigated a little further and actually talked to one of the deputy superintendents in the Ohio Department of Education. I talked to the chief finance director of the Ohio Department of Education. His response to me is, I understand, Mr. Morton, we need to look at our protocols, and I'll get back to you after I talk to the legislation and internal protocols. I have not heard back from him. Cheryl talked to Scott Hunt, who is deputy superintendent for the Department of Education, and he said essentially, and his response was, I kind of sympathize for you. I don't know what I can do for you. So, in a nutshell, they said, here's your money, but it's not here. When I called back the second time or third time, it was, well, we had our budgets cut just like you, and we're not sure what we're going to be able to do. So stay tuned. We may get the grant money. We may not get the grant money. There's, I think, a glimmer of hope. I've reached out to our local representatives and asked them to see what their process is. And again, I'm confident that we did everything we need to do on our end. And I think that there was they were looking at a way to shave their budget quickly, and that's how they did it. We were not the only school district affected. If we were, I would say, I own it. But there were,
One person said 15, one person said 12.
yeah, so we talked to 2 different people. One said 12 school districts affected, somebody else said there were 15 school districts affected. So stay tuned.
I have a timeline of that in writing for anybody who wants to communications that went back and forth.
So-
between us and them.
Okay. Auditorium update, I will tell you this.
So are we still getting the buses though?
Oh, we committed to the buses. And the grant money paid for one lease payment,
Right.
okay? Which is better than nothing.
Exactly.
And so, but we did commit to ordering the buses. We needed the new buses. Auditorium update, I will tell you that it looks outstanding. It is beautiful. It is, it's like it's been brought back to life. The painting is complete. The flooring should be completed. I think they'll be done tomorrow actually, but I put Friday. Light fixtures have been updated, period correct with Edison bulbs, and the curtains will be finished by the first of the year. I'm sorry, the first of the month, by the end of this month. And I think it would be fantastic if, when it's all finished, it would be, we had a school board meeting, we used our media cast, and we sat up on the stage and had an opportunity to have a school board meeting there. So we'll get that organized and do it from there. As COVID settles down, an open house for our community as well to come in and see it. It's something to be very proud of, and you folks will be when you see it. Any questions on that?
That makes just a stand.
Yeah. Maybe we get Mr. McDonough in there for a sneak peek with a few pictures. Opening day, this should have been more clear after I put it on there, and I'm thinking, they're probably thinking, what is he talking about, August 24th? No, I'm talking about New Teacher Day, that you would typically meet us at Sweetwater, okay, on August the 18th. We have 2 new faculty members in the school district, and both high school teachers, and we're going to meet with them on August the 18th And we are going to invite you to a lunch here, well, a box lunch here. If you would please let Mrs. Steyer know if you are interested in attending and meeting our 2 new teachers. If you would just like to come, Sherry, lunch is at 11:30.
11:30, yes.
11:30 on the 18th, if you would just like to come and say hello. Again, you'll have to follow the protocols of coming in the building with your mask and sanitizing, etc. So that's New Teacher Day, and that is here at this location where you are currently. All Teacher, we typically bring everybody back and we welcome them in a mass crowd in the cafeteria, and we feed them breakfast. And what I'm going to recommend and do is, it'll be a little more work for all of us, but I think it's in light of the situation versus bringing a couple hundred people back into the cafeteria, is that we have 4 opening meetings. We do a K2 meeting, a 3-5 meeting, a 6-8 meeting, and a 9-12 meeting. I would say you could all come to all of them. If you guys want to divide it up and come to some of them, you're more than welcome to do that. Obviously, there's 4 meetings, there's 5 of you, but I would also like to issue our awards that we would give at that time, just specifically to that grade level. I haven't shared that with the principals yet or anything along those lines, but that was my thought process as I was preparing for this meeting.
And that's the 20th, correct?
That is August 20.
Do you know what time those will be?
We'll start in the morning. We'll probably, I would imagine the first meeting will be about 8 o'clock. And then I'm thinking maybe 20 minutes for a meeting and then a 10-minute break between them. And so about every 30 minutes we start, so 8:30.
So no breakfast?
No breakfast. We'll probably provide them an opportunity to maybe get some breakfast, but we're not going to bring in a catered breakfast.
Try to come to all 4 of them, just to have 4 breakfasts.
Well, I'll make sure Deanna knows who the masked guy is that's going back for a 4th breakfast. Just don't change your shirt, we'll have trouble picking it up. So, we'll distribute the service boards as well. And, I think the message that we're going to share, at least the message I've been sharing, just got to be flexible, people. And flexibility is by the minute, by the hour, by the day, and if we do that, we're in great shape. Substitute employees. I have a concern that if we get into a situation where we would need substitute employees, that we could potentially have a shortage of substitute employees. And I just wanted to make you aware of that. Bus drivers, aides, teachers, cafeteria workers, those are not real populated positions anyway. And I have a concern that we may be struggling. And we're working through with principals and our preliminary plan. We've had a number of them that have reached out to us and just said, hey, until this settles down, can you take me off your list? So that's really what kind of got it started. And I know that I'm gonna get my bus driver's license renewed just in case. Joe Pennington got his renewed, so if we need an extra bus driver, Mark has his. Our mechanic Dalton has his. So just in the event we get into a situation where we have to, cover a number of routes where we're able to do that.
That's what I was going to ask, is the state going to, when they imposed had a bus driver's license, but then they went to what you got to have, the CDL?
Yes.
Are they willing to maybe back up a little bit on that?
They did do a condensed version to renew, and I'm not sure the exact procedures of that. It used to be like oodles of training hours in person, and now you can do a lot of that virtually. There is some in-person training, but I could get you more details if you're interested. But they have made it a little easier if you've had one to renew it or make it back active. So,
Well, I would volunteer my time to do that if I were able to do so.
Interestingly
I
enough,
think we're going to end up having issues.
certainly we are. That's why I drove a school bus early in my career. I drove in and put my necktie on and drove the school bus and dropped the kids off at school and then walked into school with them and taught. I worked at a small school, and it's kind of what, I was one of about 3 teachers that drove a school bus. And, my dad said, hey, if that's what it takes to get the job, take the job and get your bus license. So, handbook updates, amendments to the handbooks. To follow our remote learning plan, in addition to changes that we've made to our school day in terms of time, I asked the administrators to send amendments to match all of the changes we made for reopening our school. They include bell schedules, remote learning attendance, book bags, intervention, enrichment periods, lunch schedules, visitors, attendance, and I would ask that later there's an action item that you approve those amendments to match the remote learning plan that is also presented there. Which is next. Last spring, when we all had to go remote across the state of Ohio, it was all over the board, and so the state came back and said, there are 7 things you must address in your remote learning plan. The administrative team met, and we went through this, and we will submit this remote learning plan once your approval is granted. And any changes that can be made to this aren't required of us to come back and take action. I can merely come back and put it back to you as information, okay? And then we have to submit that by August 21st. Any questions on the remote learning plan? Again, while the world appeared to be closed, the Title IX office of I can't remember what the official office was, they made revisions to the Title IX process and investigation, and they have a coordinator, an investigator, an initial decision maker, an appeal decision maker that you have to designate in your school district now. And what the coordinator's job responsibilities are, what the investigator's responsibilities are, what the initial decision maker's responsibilities are, and the appeal decision maker's responsibilities. Mrs. Steyer has served in that capacity in the past, and when you see the action items below, you'll see the employees that will be assigned those responsibilities per your action. Any questions? I do have some action items for you. The first would be approve the amendments to the student handbooks as presented for the 2021 school year. That applies to both all the middle, high, and elementary school handbooks.
I'll move on to 6.1.
I'll second.
They look like the elementary school handbooks in there.
There's a change, they had a time change, and it was one thing at the top, and it said attendance time at the very top of the,
It wasn't like that.
no, it wasn't a page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Moats?
Yes.
Mrs. Overland?
Yes.
Mr. Roebuck?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Action item 6.2, remote learning plan. I'd ask you to approve the plan for the 2021 school year so that we can submit it to the Ohio Department of Education.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Moats?
Yes.
Mrs. Overland?
Yes.
Mr. Roebuck?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Item 6.3, the designation of the Title IX coordinator, investigator, initial decision maker, and appeal decision maker, Sherry Steyer and Matt Carr as the coordinators and investigators, Cheryl Swisher as the initial decision maker, and Robert Morton, myself, as the appeal decision maker, effective August 14 of 20.
I'll make that motion.
No, the 14th is the day we will submit that.
I'll second.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Overland?
Yes.
Mr. Roebuck?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Moats?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis, the consent agenda is next. There is an addendum item. We received a medical request after the agenda went to you folks, so that is included.
So the consent agenda contains our July 8, 2020 regular meeting minutes, accepting a donation from Lowe's and Defiance for disposable face mask and a lot of hand sanitizer.
With a lot of hand sanitizer.
A lot of
Thank you.
hand sanitizer.
Thank you. And it's being put to use as we speak, so.
Leave of absence for Steve Wall until just after the first or up to the first?
Basically, it's right around the end of the first semester.
We have employments, the fiscal and transfers, normal of the ESC sub-teachers, yearly Wood County agreement with the juvenile detention of Northwest Ohio, Defiance College MOU to host teacher education candidates, that's standard. Do we have anything anybody wants removed?
Don't, but I have a question. If you don't mind.
No, you're allowed.
It came up here when we started talking about something. Outside organizations like TACMO and things like that, how do?
So, like in terms of coming in the building, if they were considered a daily operation in our school, they will follow our same protocols. And again, you know, like if they're providing a mental health or service to children in our school, they're going to follow it. But what we're trying to persuade is the I'll say daily visitor, or the random visitor, the sales personnel. We're going to work with our people that serve our kids in our school and how they're going to have to go through it. We do have to, you know, we look at student teachers. They still have to get in and provide and do so many hours. So we're working with the colleges. Again, they have safety protocols that they will require the student to do. We will have them do hours as well, and before they get in. So,
And with the mentoring program, they're going to either try to do a virtual or one-on-one outside of the school, for now anyways. So they're working on other avenues as well, recognizing they're not going to be able to let people just come in. Anything else?
I request that we remove the leave of absence item as well as Steve Wall's resignation as senior on that fund.
Okay, so noted. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes? The donation, fiscal end transfers, 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, the standard yearly agreements with other agencies.
I'll second.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rodenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Wall,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Moons.
Yes.
Mrs. Overland.
Yes.
Okay, now to move on, the leave of absence, 7.3 for Mr. Wall, and the resignation of the employment, section 7.4. Do we have a motion? Mr. Wall is abstaining from that one.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Overland,
Yes.
Mr. Rodenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Wall,
Abstain.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Moons.
Yes.
Okay. Old business. Very quickly, if I may, we're going to just have a quick discussion on the evaluations that we did for the treasurer and superintendent. Basically, we had redrafted the tool we used, and we had 5 standards for the treasurer and 4 for the superintendent, using the ODE state model. We graded them as being achieved, developed, progress made, or needs improvement. Both have done an excellent job for defining city schools, and in their roles fairly being new, still with Cheryl and Mr. Morton being in his first few months. I don't think that we could have asked for better leadership than what we got. So they both received good evaluations. We're pleased to have them. We look forward to our upcoming year. And there was no need for any improvement anywhere across the board. Does anyone else wish to add to this?
I appreciate you, Kathy, for taking the time to compile all that stuff for us, and doing a great job of evaluating our administrator.
You're welcome. So they were given each given goals for the upcoming school year, which we should be monitoring for next year to see if progress was made there. Expected goals, and with, again, COVID being such a focal point the good part of last year and into this year, there's been a lot on their plates, and they've just done an outstanding job, they and their teams. So I'm very proud of what we have here at Defiance. I'm proud of what we're building. I'm excited over it in the midst of all the craziness. So thank you both for everything you're doing and have done. And we'll have them here again next year, and we'll keep moving forward as we have been.
Thank you. Appreciate the thorough evaluation as well.
Okay, so any other old business?
Anything about this one that is coming up later?
I'm sorry?
Anything in regard to this
Um,
coming up later?
In terms of the 1918 building? Yeah, actually, I'd like to discuss with you the property in executive session, and I would like to, there's likely to be action regarding that at the conclusion of the executive session.
Okay, anything else about business? Do we have any new business?
You know, I just been thinking that there's really not been a lot of, I don't think a lot of time off for people. I mean, I realize the teachers have been out, but still, I'm just guessing they had something on their plate all the time. And I know you all did, and the principals were kind of on call all through the month of July. And I would just, say that I'm appreciative for everything that they came up with for the reopening and the guidance of the health department. And you don't just get that out of the box and put it together and be ready to go in a couple weeks. So I just hope they know that all their efforts are appreciated for the new school year start up.
Yeah, if I hear one more time, I just love Mr. Morton. I don't know, I may have to.
Will you, is my wife calling you? Oh, I thought maybe it was my wife that was calling you. So I told her to, Kathy, I told her to, so.
People do seem to feel that they're getting a lot of communication. That's good.
Yeah, we've had a very positive turnaround, and we can only go up from there. So, yeah, I agree with us. We've had a great deal of cooperation. That's their selling.
Chris, you're right. A lot of people put in a lot of time and done a fantastic job. And, when you put people in a room and you just grind it out, like I've told you before, you have smart people that work for you. So they did a heck of a job.
Well, I want to thank you for making us go through this little experiment of wearing our face masks during the entire meeting today, Mr. Morton. I now understand what it might be like for that 6 or 7-year-old child who has gigantic ears like I do. And maybe a mask is a little too tight, where you could pull your mask up by grabbing your ears. But I do see that, I do appreciate it, because it's one thing to hear people talk about, it's another thing to experience it. It's going to be difficult.
It certainly is going to be, I think it's going to be like learning to ride a bike. It's going to be days where it's really hard. It's going to be days where it's uncomfortable. It's going to be days where it's hot. It's going to be days where it makes it hard for you to breathe. And we've got mask breaks built in to the day for all of our children, so that they can get a little break too. So I sympathize with them, and we've tried to model the behavior administratively as staff come in the building and getting ready for the school year. We're asking them to do the same thing. And I think as we get into it, and I hate the word unprecedented now, and I hate the word new normal, because it's not new normal. This isn't normal, and we're going to get back to normal. These are things that we're going to do to get back to normal. And I think our people will be outstanding, and again, it'll be troublesome, especially I think for some little kids early on, but we'll get through it. We'll help them out.
I'm sure you'll be very creative like Cheryl is with hers. So hers does not fall off of her. She has a strap attached to it.
I had a mom actually say she couldn't wait for her daughter to come home the first day from school in kindergarten and see whose match you was wearing. So, you know, they still have a sense of humor.
And they do have plans in place for masks
Right.
and sharing, and we've got
Right.
some extras and how we're gonna keep them, and, you know, think of every mitten, hat, and glove that's left all over the school bus, the schoolyard, the cafeteria, and masks are now gonna be in that, and we have to accommodate for that as well, so.
But the longer you wear them, the more you do. I've been having to do it for months now, and you do get a bit acclimated to it, and it gets easier as time goes on. So there's a light at the end of that tunnel. Okay, anything else? That was new business.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we do have a need for an executive session tonight to consider employment matters and also purchase of property or sale of, okay? If there's any action afterwards, we will have Mr. Morton contact you, Tim, with what that is. And no further ado, do I have a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll move for the purpose of number 1 and 2, right?
Yes.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mr. Rodenberger?
Yep.
Mrs. Overland?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Ayers?
Yes, we are in executive session at 6:16.